Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We have an exciting session with members of our own internal Hexis Security Operations Center team. Today, we're going to talk about how security is an option for every organization. And so with me today, I have from our team, Jan Manning, the CIO and VP of Operations for Hexis Cyber Solutions, Vic J, the Manager and Senior Security Analyst, and Zach Punker, a Security Analyst with our Hexis Cyber Solutions team. And I'm Alex Leading, and I'll be your moderator. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the first question for you, Jan. What do you really see as the major security challenges that organizations are going to face in 2016?
So, Alex, I think that one of them is service providers and third-party providers are becoming a major vulnerability. Companies use these vendors more and more to reduce their own costs. Therefore, they really need to look at their security as well as their own security operations. So I think that's really a focus in 2016.
Great. And Vic, Zach, do you guys have anything that you'd want to add?
I absolutely agree. I think as Jan was mentioning, the primary challenges are always going to be the fact that there are more devices that are being connected on the internet, and there's also the need to secure those devices. And the fact that the kill chain is so quick, they'll need to be able to respond quickly whenever there is any type of hostile action being taken on their network.
Alex, one of the other I see is the skill gaps and the lack of security professionals. There's just not enough training and not enough people coming out of colleges with that background. And we also need seasoned individuals. So resource constraints are really going to be an adverse situation to many organizations.
So I think that's a really great point. And as we talk about, the lack of resources and the growth of attacks, I'll start with Zach. Do you think that organizations are really as safe as they think they are?
In short, I would say no. So I think generally there are two mindsets when it comes to security, and if an organization thinks they are as safe as they are, I think there are the people out there that understand that there is a need for improvement and innovation in their own security policies in order to match the evolution of malware. And I think those companies are often the most secure. And then obviously the flip side to that is a company that does not have a good understanding of the virtual landscape. So they don't understand the threats and the vulnerabilities and risks that basically come hand in hand with, using the internet. And I think those companies are the ones that, may feel that they're up to par with their security, but ultimately they are not.
I agree. I think that's a really good point. And, there's a gap necessarily of skills, but then also of understanding of what being secure really means versus being what you think is secure, and maybe this idea of compliance checkbox, compliance isn't necessarily security. So I think that's a really good point. We hear a lot about this 24/7 monitoring and protection for security, and I guess I'm just trying to understand from your perspective, what does that really mean to you? So I'll go ahead and start with Vic.
Thank you. So in terms of what does 24/7 monitoring protection mean, I think it boils down to three key things: people, process, and technology. And what I mean by people is that you need the right security analysts as well as a team to understand the new threat landscape. You also need to have these people supported by technology. In this case, you need reliable security software at both the host and endpoint. And ultimately then, the last key portion is the process, where you need to make sure that you have a proper escalation pathway and interconnections to different organizations that you're protecting to give them knowledge of what's going on.
I think that makes total sense. Jan, do you have any different perspective?
No, I think Vic said that very clearly. 24/7 is 365 days a year, holidays included, and you need all three of those things working in tandem in order to protect your network and your environment.
So that's, again, I think that's great. It's what we've been saying. We really agree with the people, the process, and the technology are all key factors of really true monitoring and protection. And so a lot of ways that companies do that is through a SOC or a Security Operations Center. So Zach, since you're a member of our Hexis SOC, what do you see as the main role of a SOC for organizations?
So the main role of a SOC to me is the proactive defense of the company or client's network, whoever you are in charge of protecting, and as well as their data. So I'd like to stress just proactive over reactive. They're constantly looking to improve the current security policy, and they're not necessarily waiting for something to happen, right? So just to add on top of that, a SOC manages all security incidents, which entails the identification, analysis, communication, investigation, and reporting of those security incidents. And I think that, in a nutshell, is the main role of the SOC.
Yeah, I think that's great. Jan, maybe from the executive level, how do you view the SOC and the importance of a SOC for an organization?
Oh, it's tremendously important. As a CIO, you really need that Security Operations Center to be always looking and always proactively looking at your network, as well as when those incidents occur, knowing what to do, right? The experience and the processes that the SOC enables a company to have is just incredibly important to us.
Definitely, and I think a lot of times we think only large organizations can have a SOC or have this 24/7 monitoring. So I guess, Vic or Zach in the room, do you guys think that, this type of monitoring can only happen for large organizations, or is only important for them, or is that something that all organizations and enterprises should really have?
This is Vic from the SOC. I believe that every organization needs 24/7 monitoring and protection. Typically, hackers don't really care how large an organization is. They look for an organization that has the least amount of security. Because at the end of the day, every organization has some level of revenue and or assets that they could possibly use. So it is important that you have 24/7 monitoring and protection for every organization, not just a large one.
And Jan, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I totally agree with Vic that it's important for all organizations. No one's excluded in the cyber terror that we're going through right now, small and large. It's the data they're after. It's the customer data. And, they all need to protect themselves.
Definitely. And I think, we see that a lot. We see the headlines of maybe these big retailers, but the small shops, they're getting hit too, and we just might not hear about it in the news. So it's important to remember that everyone really is a target. So, when we talk about different size organizations, in general, do you think that whether you're large or small, medium, a huge enterprise, do you guys really think that organizations have the resources that they need to protect their systems or their data? Go ahead, Vic.
So I would always say that, you don't know what you don't know, and in this case, it always helps to have a third-party organization, such as a managed service, take a look at your infrastructure independently to allow them to see something that was probably missed by the internal organization. So I think there's always a value to having more resources looking at a network and an organization than just the current ones that are there.
Zach, do you have anything?
Yeah, just to add on to what Vic said, mostly agree with him. It's definitely good to have that third party because then you don't get that that prejudicial view at all. So it's just someone that's completely unbiased that can give you the honest answer as to whether or not your current policies and your current technologies that you have in place, as well as the people, are up to par.
I think, Jan, this really goes back to your point of, the skills gap and the lack of cyber experts. So, what are your thoughts around the resources that organizations have?
Yeah, people have to understand that the security professionals today are very rare and hard to come by. And with that, because there's such a demand, they're extremely expensive resources to have on staff 24/7 in your organization. So having a third-party SOC, which Hexis does, enables you to get that 24/7 at a much reduced cost. And it's just a great resource to have.
And that's a great lead into my last question. So as you mentioned, Hexis does have a managed service offering. We'll start with Jan and then move over to the guys here, but what is this offering and why should organizations really take a look at it and consider it for their security solution?
Well, I think Hexis delivers not only the managed service, the 24/7 SOC, but it also provides our Hawkeye G system enables us to set policies, different policies and unique policies for each organization that we manage the SOC for. So I think that as a package, when you look at this and the overall cost of security, it is a great value for the money that you would have to pay in comparison to bringing on staff and bringing on a plethora of different security tools. This really does a lot for its money and value. So
certainly. And guys, what do you think? You guys are on the SOC. I'm sure you agree, but
yeah. So I absolutely agree. I think the value, the real value add, oftentimes comes from the fact that we have a 24/7 team, fully skilled to handle extremely difficult problems both morning and night. And what that does is that allows us to examine the network when oftentimes the customers are sleeping and when typically hackers are attacking the network. But it also provides us with the ability to provide in-depth reports ranging from levels of the Chief Executive Officer, Chief Technical Officer, all the way down to the security administrators and security professionals. And that breadth of information delivery provides a greater insight to any organization regarding any attack or incident that's happening in their network.
Definitely. All right, well, those are all the questions I have today. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If you're looking for more information on Hexis, please visit our website at www.hexiscyber.com. You can always follow us on Twitter at Hexis_cyber.